What's up, guys? JP Podcast, episode 1, with a friend that I met here in our office, Seth Van Laningham with ChronoLogic. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
So you're about to see what $1 million, by the way, let me actually just show you. This is what I said, Seth, like, we want to make this a great episode. Like, can you do like $500,000 in watches? He's like, let me see what I can do. This is $1 million in watches, okay? So if I've never seen $1 million in watches, and Seth just educated me on all of these different watches. We'll talk about some of them here. Before the episode is over, I may buy a watch. We don't know, okay? We may see a negotiation, live negotiation. But anyways, man, excited to jump kind of into this. Thank you so much for being willing to come out to be our first guest.
Of course, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we've been going back and forth on education on watches. So tell us, like, who are you? How did you get into being a watch broker?
Okay. Yeah, like you said, I'm Seth Van Laningham. So basically, what got me into it was passion. I've always kind of been interested in watches, but probably about 6 or 7 years ago, some of my friends were buying $5,000 watches, and I couldn't understand it. I'm like, $5,000 on a watch? I just don't get it. I like them, but I started looking into it, researching, the materials, how high quality they are, how they last, a lifetime and beyond, how you can have them serviced. You start to learn about the mechanics behind it, and there's just a certain point when you just get hooked and you start understanding the value of them and what makes them so valuable and desired. And that's what really got me into it, was passion. I never thought of it as a business at first. I'd buy some cheap watches, $200-$300 watches here and there. And then I had a good friend of mine gave me a Tag Heuer that was, about a $1,500 watch. And I felt like king of the world wearing that watch. And, then just noticing the being sapphire crystal instead of like glass, they don't scratch. And you just see how high quality these pieces are and how they make you feel when you really enjoy them. And that got me into it more, and so I started looking all the time for watches and start finding a deal here or there. A $200 watch I could sell for $500, a $500 watch I could sell for $1,000, and just very slowly, still not thinking of it as a business at all. Just having some fun, enjoying some watches. And then as time went by, I started realizing, I could probably do this as a business and start scaling it up. And I got a little more serious, threw a little more capital at it, nothing crazy, $5,000-$10,000, and started buying a couple watches at a time and then selling those. And I, started realizing I could do it, and seeing that as the watches go up to any level you want, so I just kept climbing the ladder of the price ranges and found my niche, in the higher end stuff. And, my passion for watches led me to be able to spot the fakes and know about the watches deeply before I even started selling them, so it wasn't a big learning curve for me. Once I got into them, I already knew a lot, and I already had good partnerships with watchmakers that could fix stuff and that kind of stuff that I just talked to as friends, and then it turned into full-time business. And I quit my job about 2.5 years ago, working a 9 to 5, and went full-fledged at the watches, and been enjoying it since.
So you started just collecting watches yourself, and then through selling them, like, how did you start selling watches? Were you just like, some people were like, hey man, nice watch, and you were like,
yeah, the ones that I was selling, I was buying to sell.
You were buying to sell.
It wasn't a piece that I wanted necessarily. I just see it on Facebook Marketplace and know, like, oh wow, that's a pretty good deal. Negotiate a bit, and get it down to a fair price, and then I list it for sale on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or here or there, and after a month or 2 months it would sell for and when you buy 300 and sell for 600 or 700, I mean, it's over 100% profit. It's a really good profit margin, and it narrows down the higher end watches you get. You're not getting that kind of profit on a $200K watch normally, but it's like it just went from there.
So you started small with smaller watches.
Yep.
What was the first big watch you ever you're like, this is a big, like, I'm spending a lot of money?
I think once you get a Rolex, everybody's heard about Rolex.
For sure.
And they start in all ranges. The first Rolex I bought was $2,500, and I sold it for $3,100, I believe.
Okay.
So $600 profit. Still nothing that's breaking the bank, setting records or anything like that, but it was just proving more and more to me that this could be done. And I realized pretty early on that my eye for spotting fakes and all that was very good. So I just scaled up as quickly as I could and quickly got into the $15,000 to $50,000 mark. And it was easier for me to deal in those markets because I felt so comfortable already.
Got it. And were you, at that point, were you still reselling them on like Facebook Marketplace, or at this time people know you as like the watch guy? Hey, that's my watch broker. Hey, talk to my buddy.
Yep, it started rolling around it like that. I started just helping friends get a watch, no profit or anything, maybe just a little bit of profit to help them get the watch. They knew that it was safer for me to buy it than them.
For sure.
Because I know, I have the watchmakers to check it. I know how to check it myself. So they would go to me just to buy their own pieces. And the trust was such a big part of it. They knew a long time ago, I've just been a man of my word and trustworthy. It's a big part of business, I think. And when I built that reputation before even dealing in this amount of money or anything, it just set me up to where instantly all these people knew, like, oh, of course I can trust him with $50,000. Like, I've known him this long and he's an honest man. So that was the biggest part, to just instantly already have the trust of so many people that it built the network quickly. And then, like you said, quickly became the watch guy for so many people. Hey, go to Seth. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to find it quick. He knows how to find the right stuff. It's going to be safe. You're not going to have to worry when you get it. It's already been checked out.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. Can you show us the most expensive watch you brought today?
Yeah, let me get that. I think out of what I brought today, this Audemars Piguet Open Worked is 41 millimeter in rose gold. Is probably the most expensive piece I brought, somewhere around $200,000 to $220,000.
$200,000 to $220,000 for that watch.
Yep, exactly.
That's a house in some places. That's a couple houses.
Yeah, it is, and again, it came down to I was comfortable in this stuff, very quickly, and I can understand a lot of people aren't. It's a lot of money, and if you're not quite sure if it's real or if you're getting scammed or anything like that, I wouldn't even make a move with $200,000 possible loss or something like that. So I get it, but for me, it was a quickly scale up, and I knew and was comfortable and deal with the right people around the world that are very respected and trustworthy. And if anything goes south, they have your back 10 times. And it's just building a good network worldwide. Watches are such a, worldwide market that, it's huge in China.
Makes sense.
It's huge everywhere. So you
What would you say to somebody that's like, I would never spend $200,000 on a watch? Obviously, they're not going to be the one buying it, but what's the thought process to like the general audience? It's like, there's no way in the world I'd spend that much on a watch.
I think, there's a couple different ways. Some people are looking for the flashiness. Some people got money. Their Bitcoin went through the roof, and now they got some cash, so they go buy their $200K watch, and they just like people to see it. I have clients that don't even set the time. It's just a piece to show off, and it's like, yeah, that's fine. People wear necklaces, they wear whatever. The watch is a good piece of men's jewelry where you're not you're not wearing the necklace. You don't have to have the earrings and diamonds and everything. You have your one watch. But for me and a lot of my clients, it's the passion about watchmaking. You love what these companies have done. They've been around for hundreds of years. They've been building these high quality pieces for so long, and something like this is just so rare and sought after, So it's a beautiful piece to look at, and it brings you joy. Like, I'm so passionate about watches. Like, it brings me joy every day putting one on, setting the time. I enjoy it far beyond just a business. It's definitely a huge passion of mine.
I got you. And when you're talking like, I'm thinking about buying a nice watch, like getting into insurance investments, start selling, you start making some money, what would you say is like a good entry level watch for like an entrepreneur or businessman or salesperson or a professional saleswoman, where it's like, I want something nice. I want to reward myself with something. What's a good watch to like get into?
I really like, for entry level stuff, Omega. They're an amazing company. I brought one here out of my personal collection, but they're very well made watches. They don't have issues. They're high quality. It's something you can really enjoy for life and beyond, passed down. Very high quality pieces, lower priced than something like a Rolex because of the name. Omega makes just as quality of pieces, but Rolex has the name. So with an Omega, you can get a good deal, save a little bit on the original purchase, and then it holds its value over time if you buy it right.
And should you buy a watch new? Should you buy a watch used?
It definitely depends on the brand of watch. Some watches, if you get it new, it's worth double. So it's like great to buy it new, and if you were to buy it used, you're going to pay double. So it's like,
I'm confused on that part. Explain that. So if you were to buy it new, because it's new, it's never been worn. Is it hard to get then? Because I've tried to buy like a Rolex, like when we've talked, a presidential date. I think it's called a date.
They date.
With the 40, what's the
40 millimeter.
40 millimeter, and I can't, and like even some stores will have it, but they're like, no, we can't sell you this.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is a lot of these they're so rare and so high in demand. All these stores are trying to figure out how they can squeeze the most profit out of that piece. They can't sell it above retail, technically, you know, over the counter. So it has to go for retail. So they sell it at retail, but they want to sell it to the guy that bought $50,000 necklace for his wife. You know, it's like, and then they've done business for years, buying jewelry, buying this. They know you're going to buy that. Maybe you buy a few Omegas and a couple other watches they sell first, and they realize, hey, this guy's not reselling them. We feel safe. They definitely look into you. I mean, when you come in, a lot of times Rolex, for instance, will tell you, hey, you know, we don't have anything available, even though they do. And then you leave and they look you up and they'll see like, okay, this guy's a watch dealer. I'm obviously not going to sell him a watch, you know, or they look you up and see he's an entrepreneur in the area. He's got a business. What he told me is true. He just sold his business. He wants to, you know, celebrate it with a watch. So they might call you back and be like, you know, I got this watch for you. And it may start with something that's easier to get and build up to that higher end, you know, piece.
Why did they look you up?
They want to know if you're going to resell it mainly. They don't want their watches being resold for profit. They don't want to just hand it over to somebody that's going to flip it for profit. So they're looking for the client that's going to hold it for a while and be a good client in the future to keep buying and buying.
That's so interesting, because for me, I'm like, why would they care if they're making their initial profit?
I think it just protects the brand's reputation. You know, people do get quite mad when resellers get their hands on a brand new watch that like you can't get even if you spent $500,000 at a jewelry store. You know, it's like they're like, how did this guy get it? You know, he's just selling it. He doesn't even want it. You know, so it does upset their clients.
Got it. So it's more to protect the relationship with their existing clients.
Yeah, and keep the brand rare and scarce. You know, if they're choosing who it goes to, well, you feel like you got to go in there more often, smooze them up, talk to them more, you know, bring them a gift, this and that, you know, and it's so it brings the brand, you know, maybe to a higher place.
Okay, so I'm starting with an Omega. How much are Omegas? I've never bought an Omega.
Most Omegas are going to be in the, you know, 5 to 10,000 range. They go all the way up into the hundreds of thousands, but most of them are going to be in the 5 to 15,000 range.
Okay, and you brought your I think your first watch.
Yeah. So what I brought here was a little run through my beginnings. So this was that Tag Heuer I was telling you about that my friend gave to me.
This is the one where you're like, man, I feel good wearing it.
I felt like a king wearing that watch. And it's funny because now I can wear a $50,000 watch and I don't feel how I felt when I wore that in the beginning. You know, it's a really special experience that I enjoyed so much. And, you know, that was a very good piece. And then from here, I had this for a couple years. And then I went and purchased my Omega. So this was the first watch that I purchased new from a dealer. You know, I even, you know, put a down payment and financed it, got it paid off within a year, and it was a big deal. Like I said, I wasn't a dealer then. It was a passion of mine. I was buying, you know, to keep, and obviously these are watches that I am keeping forever. And, you know, I've worn that watch. I wore it daily for years, and now I, you know, throw it in rotation, wear it still a lot. I swim with it. I, you know, go travel the world with it. This is one I like to wear when I travel around. So it's like it's a special
Can you swim
piece.
with all like high end?
There's certain ones that you want to look at the water resistance and know. A lot of them, like this one, has a screw down crown, so it snugs up tight, water resistant. But yeah, there's definitely different watches. Some you don't want to swim with because they're not as waterproof. Some have leather bands, and leather doesn't do very good in water.
Got it.
And certain things like that.
Okay.
And then the next piece I brought here out of my collection was the first Rolex I bought. And I actually bought this. That's
beautiful, man.
This is dated the day I started my business and quit my job on my own, went on my own. So that was a special piece. I wanted that watch. It was a goal of mine to buy it by the end of the year. And I, you know, saved up, was working. It came down to December, and I decided I was going to leave my job. And then I came across this, you know, brand new, unworn, with the date of the day that I started my business. So I was like, man, this is it. This is one of my dream watches of all time. Any value. I just love this piece so much. And
so you bought this from a store or a watch broker?
I bought it from another broker.
Okay, got it. And you bought it on the day you quit your job?
Yep, I bought it that day. You know, looking back now, I'm like, hey, when you're starting a business, you probably don't want to go spend this much money. Better to put it in the business, but it had been my plan, you know, all year. Was my goal from the beginning of the year to buy this watch by the end of the year. And I actually had gone into many Rolex dealers, and I'm like, I want this watch. Like, I'm going to keep it forever. I want it bad. Nobody could get it for me. So it's like I ended up with the broker. I paid a little over retail myself for it, you know, just because they are going for over retail. But it didn't matter. I couldn't get it, you know. And it's like I paid a little over retail. It's still worth over retail. So that money's still there. It's a safe store of value for me. Not that I care because these will be with me forever, but it's definitely an interesting market.
How did you like decide, like, because I'm assuming when you buy a watch and you're holding it, some of these you probably hold for a while before you find a buyer. So there's not like you don't have like an income stream coming in when you're full time already, right?
Kind of. It depends on the inventory, and it depends. If you buy it right, you can move it for profit. You know, it may not be the profit you're looking for. If you sit on it for 2 months, you might get double the profit.
Okay.
But if you buy it right, you kind of know, hey, I can sell this to a jeweler and make a little bit of money. So depending, if you need to move it quick, you just move it quick and move on with your profit. But once you become full time like myself, you want to have more inventory, so something's always moving. You know, they're listed all over the internet. I have clients now that hit me up all the time. Hey, I want this watch. Let me find that for you. Hey, I want this one, or what do you have? And I keep my clients updated with what's coming in, and they may just see something. Hey, I'll take that. You know. But yeah, you just keep a lot listed, and keep them moving.
When did you decide you were ready to like go full time? For you, like, what was the moment, or was it a certain amount of inventory? Was it a certain income? Was it a certain consistency of steady income per month? Where you're like, I'm gonna quit my job, go full time into being a watch broker.
I think it was I was matching my income at my current job, so I knew I could cut it and be fine. But I also, another local business owner that owns a powder coating business, he had told me, about a year and a half before that, we were just talking about business, and I was asking him about, how did you know to go on your own? And he said one of the things he regretted most was that he waited so long to go on his own. He's like, I knew I could do it. I knew it was going to work, and I kept at my job. And he's like, now I look back, I should have quit years before and gone full time. So that literally was ringing in my head for a year and a half. It's like, I know I can do this. I've already doing it and proving it. So it's like, it's hard. It's a hard step to jump off, and you have no steady income anymore unless you're working and getting after it. So it's a hard jump, but that was ringing in my head the whole time. Like, if you know you can do this, jump off the ledge. And so I did.
And you did it part time for how long?
Probably about a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay, so part time, you replace your income at your job, and then you're like, hey, I'm gonna be able to go full time.
Yep, I figured, hey, if I'm doing it full time, I'm going to be able to bring my income up even more. So if I'm already matching my income, the full time will bring more income. And I went for it.
Makes sense. And then here's next question here. How can I buy a watch and not lose money on it? Like, if I was to buy one of these watches and I'm like, man, I like the watch, I want to buy it, but I want to have the ability to resell it later, and not, whether I make money or at least break even, I don't lose money. How does somebody go about that?
I think it's where somebody that's going to tell you the truth and be passionate about watches like myself comes in. You come to me and say, hey, I want a piece, but I want it to hold its value. Well, we're going to look at different watches, and some clients I've had do that, but then they end up, no, it doesn't matter, I want this watch. And well, you're probably going to lose some money on that watch, So it's finding the right person to help you, steer you into the piece that's the most likely to hold value. It's hard to know forever what the world's going to bring, but there's definitely watches where this watch is discontinued. It's been going up for the last few years, and it depends on how long you're going to hold it. If they say, hey, I want to have it for 5 years, it's a little easier to predict than, hey, I might want to sell it in 6 months. That's a little harder, And I also offer trade-ins, so if in 6 months they decide, let's trade this on something else, they can move into that piece and move into that piece. So their value stays there in moving into other pieces as well.
Which watches retain their value the most? Is there is it Rolex? Because in my brain I would think
Rolex they do very well, and they've historically done well for quite some time. I mean, decades they've done well. There's other brands, Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet. There's plenty of watches that if you get the rare ones, they're going to hold their value. They're just so limited, and there's even more boutique brands than that are even more rare. But I would say if you're just going on a judge overall, Rolex, because it's like if you basically bought any Rolex in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, it's worth more today than you paid. It's very rare that one from those times wouldn't be worth more, and it's because inflation, the cost of gold and these materials is going up. So, for instance, a gold Daytona, a Rolex Daytona, in the early 2000s was about 25,000 retail, and now they're about 45,000 retail. So if you bought it at 25,000, even if it's going for half retail now, well, you're at half retail what you paid, So it's over time, the inflation of the materials and the inflation of the dollar, is or deflation, I guess, of the value of the dollar is definitely plays into effect.
Is there a certain like annual percentage that you see watches like go up? Like
no, it's funny. The last few years, the watch market has just been on fire, and most Rolexes were going for so far above retail. Nobody cared what retail was doing, so they jumped up like 3 or 4 price jumps a year. And
the retail jumped up.
Exactly. They kept bumping it. People are like, who cares? If they went up 500, you still can't get it anywhere near that. And if I could, I'd buy it. So it's like it didn't affect anybody. And then when the market came down a little bit on the pieces, it started meaning a little more, and people are, they're not buying as much of the higher end, stuff that's not going to be able to resold really quickly. But yeah. So
is it a good time to buy a watch right now with like, certain things like real estate, for example, as interest rates go higher, prices come down.
Yep.
Cars, right? Interest rates are higher, prices have come down a little bit because it's harder to finance that, so they have to, let's lower the price.
Yes.
Right? Is that what's going on in the watch market right now?
Yeah, I think it really is a good time to buy, especially really rare pieces, because no dealers right now are wanting to hold on to that inventory. So the prices have dropped immensely. For instance, this yellow gold perpetual calendar, Audemars Piguet here, this watch was selling for, between 300,000 and 400,000 2 years ago. Now they're down to 175.
So that watch, can I see it?
Yes.
This watch was selling. This watch was selling for 3 to 4. Oh, this is the one you showed me earlier.
Yes.
It has it tracks the month, the day. It tracks the moon cycle.
The moon phase. Yeah.
There's a moon phase. There's a moon phase on here. Literally crazy. You can see what full moon and all that stuff. So this was selling for 340, you said?
Between 3 and 400, though.
Between 3 to 400.
It's a very rare piece, so there's never that many on the market at any given time.
And now this would sell for how much?
About 175-ish.
Wow. So if I bought it at 300,
yes,
I'm out 130.
Yes, or you hold on to it and wait until, who knows if it ever goes back to that price. It's definitely going to go back up. I mean, it's just the price of gold, all that's going up. It's such a rare watch. I mean, if you were to look at any given time, there's only a couple of these for sale in the world at anywhere. So it's very rare. And once they're gone, the price is whatever you want to ask if there's none available. So it's a good piece now at that price. When they were 300,000 to 400,000, they were very high inflated, and nobody really knew where stuff was going because watches were just flying. So people were buying them, hoping they would go up and holding on to them. But since the market came down, some of these watches, like that one, for example, it's so hard to get, so rare, and it's not very much above retail right now, even if you were to be able to get it from AP. So to me, if you balance that out, it kind of makes sense. Like you could probably spend $1 million with Audemars Piguet and not get that watch, So when you think of it from that, you can't get one, and it's near retail. So it's like it balances out to, hey, this thing's probably going to hold its value and, in 10 years could be worth quite a bit more because it'll likely be discontinued by then and there's not many of them out there.
And I know we kind of talked on this earlier, but should I buy it from a store? Should I buy it from a watch broker?
It just depends. If you're lucky enough to go into Rolex and they'll sell you something that's valuable, obviously it's great to buy it at retail because then you can resell it. But you can't get these watches. And so many of my clients, especially Rolex clients, they get so frustrated dealing with Rolex. They go in there, They want these watches forever. They have 20 watches in their collection. They're never selling anything, and they still can't get anything, even something that's not that special. And so they get tired of it. They get sick of it.
Sense.
They don't care about paying over retail because it holds that over retail value, and they can get it now.
Okay. And is, watch broker to watch broker, like some people will say, well, hey, should I buy this policy from you or should I go to that company? How do you compete against other watch brokers? Obviously service I know is part of it, but in terms of price?
In terms of price, I mean, a lot of the watch brokers are very similar on price. It's okay. not a huge amount of watch brokers out there, so we all really kind of work together and everybody's friendly, and you don't know everybody, but you know a good amount of the community, and somebody knows this guy, and overall the market works pretty well together. And there's definitely a lot of brokers that don't have the integrity, and that's one of the biggest things that I go for. And if you're looking for a watch broker, you need somebody that's beyond their word. You have to know that what they're selling you is 100% legitimate. You could have a scuffed up watch or a scratch on it that could cost thousands to fix, and you don't know that. And if they don't tell you and they just, it's just a little, somebody wore it, it's no big deal. Well, they just, that's kind of
I wouldn't know that.
Exactly. It gets one over on you. So you want somebody that you're going to tell you, hey, I want a really nice one, and when it comes in, it's going to be mint, And if they're like, hey, I don't mind if it's worn, I don't mind if it has the box and papers, well, then they know what they're getting. And still, I'm still looking for the nicest version of that myself, Where other dealers, there's some dealers that they just pass along anything they can get, and that's where it becomes risky. Is some of these dealers are more about it for the money, and I love watches, and a lot of the brokers I know are that way. They love watches, they're passionate about it. They want you to have just as much fun with your watch as I enjoy mine, So I want to make sure I pass it on, and I want a continuous relationship for life. I don't want to sell you one watch and then you go find out you got screwed and you never come to me again, and you tell everybody that you got screwed. So
Yeah.
it's like nobody of them are going to come to me either.
Has anybody ever tried to sell you a fake?
I've seen fakes. I haven't had like somebody, met up and like realized it's fake. I can tell really good from pictures. I've seen plenty of fakes available, stuff that, I may have looked at and be like, oh, let me check this out. And then I realize it's fake. I've had a lot of clients come to me because they're so enticed by the price. So I've had a lot of my clients, hey, my friend has this watch. He said he'd sell me for $2,000. And I'm like, the kind of going thing is if the deal's too good, it's not real, It's like, that's the thing. Or if it's a story about, oh, my grandfather died and passed this down, it's a red flag right away. If they have a story to the watch, you got to be worried right away. And so, and that's one of the things. You really got to be diligent. And even when I get watches in, I take them to my watchmaker to double check them. And sometimes I even have another watchmaker triple check them. And it's just, you want to make sure everything's legitimate because, when you're dealing with these people, a lot of these other brokers, something may have slipped by them. Maybe they're not as careful as you, and they sold it to you without even seeing it, and they didn't realize it's fake. You got to check that stuff because you got to go back to them instantly and get it taken care of.
How does somebody check that? Like if I'm considering buying a watch from Facebook Marketplace or it's a Rolex, and
that's a hard one. That's why I really prefer people to go through a watch broker because you're washing your hands of all the risk. Like they're the ones taking the risk, and if there's somebody who stands behind their word, like, they're going to back it up, So if something does happen, like, hey, I found out, this was scratched or whatever, and they come back to me, oh, I didn't realize that. Let me take care of it. Let's make it right now. So you make it right. For the normal person buying on Facebook Marketplace or something, it has to be authenticated. You have to take it to a watchmaker that can look it over, that can open it up and make sure that what's inside is what should be in there, and there's no, cheap movement or something that they've either put in it or that gives away that it is a fake watch. So that's one of the ways, but people think, hey, I want to buy this Rolex. Let's meet at Rolex and they'll authenticate it. Most Rolex stores won't authenticate it.
That's what I would think. Yep. Hey, I'll meet you at the store.
Yep, they have no want to do it. They gain nothing. So it's like, and they're risking something. So most Rolex dealers, and sometimes it's a hard thing. People will be like, hey, I want to buy this Rolex from you. Let's meet at Rolex. And I'm like, they're not going to authenticate it. Like, trust me, let's meet it at this other jeweler who will. You can see their reputation, but usually they got to call Rolex and realize like, yeah, they're not going to do it. And then they understand, because it sounds a little shady when you're like, no, let's not meet at Rolex, but they're not going to authenticate it. Most of the time, if you want a piece authenticated through Rolex, you have to send it in. They're going to open it up, go through it. You're going to pay. The watch is going to be gone for a little while. And then you'll know when it comes back, hey, it's good or whatever.
Do they have like a serial number inside or an ID number?
Yeah, they do have a serial number. On the newer Rolexes, it's printed right inside the bezel. And you can do that. But even the good fakes, they're printing serial numbers on them now. That's why when you see a lot of watches.
That's legit.
Yeah, oh, dude. I've seen fake watches, like a watch that the original might be 200,000 and the fake is 40,000. Because it's real gold. It's done in like the highest, it's very hard to tell.
So the fake is real gold.
Yep, the fake is real gold on some of these, very high-end pieces, like, where the real one might be 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. They're getting this fake for 40, and all their friends think they have the real thing, and they're wearing a $400,000 watch when it's a fake.
Wow, so somebody would spend $40,000 on a fake watch?
Yep, yeah, and I actually know brokers that deal with like a lot of the wrappers and stuff like that, and that's what they sell, and they don't kid about it. They're not sitting here telling you it's real. They tell you it's a replica, and that but it's real gold. It's the real, as close as it's going to get. But they're not out there. The good ones aren't out there trying to tell you that it is real. I don't deal in anything like that just because I want my reputation to be that I never touch anything that's not authentic.
For sure. What do you think's helped you become a successful watch broker? Because you've now done it full time. Mm-hmm. Right, you've been doing this for a while.
Yep, I really think your core values and your being honest and truthful is one of the biggest things, because in this industry it's all trust. People are trusting me sometimes with, 400,000 or 500,000, just wiring it to me. No, hey, I'll get you the watch in a few days. And they got to trust that it's all going good, and you got to be the guy that they don't even worry about, so that your client's not stressing it. He's not calling you every 5 minutes. He's not starting to get, really worried or anything. They know, hey, he's got me taken care of. And I honestly think that in this industry and a lot of higher end business in general, your word is key. And if you aren't a man of your word, you're going nowhere in this industry.
For sure. What's the hardest part about what you do?
I think, finding the watches, being able to keep a constant in source of watches coming in. And that becomes easier with the more clients that you get, because they are trading in and out of stuff. They want to sell this one, they want to buy that one. So it becomes a bit easier with that. But I think especially in the beginning, just being able to find a constant source of watches that you can resell, for the profits.
And most people, when they're selling their watch, they want the best price.
Exactly.
So how do you buy a good deal?
Again, a lot of it is a trust. This guy, hey, maybe I could sell this online for 25,000 and maybe get screwed. I don't know. I got to meet the guy I don't even know. Like, I'm reading it, but he's willing to give me 23,000 and I know it's real. He's going to come pick it up. He's giving me the money, he's sending it over, done deal, no stress, no worry. The money's good. It's not stolen. So a lot of it, in my experience, is my clients, it's comfort on both sides. They know they're buying, they know they're selling. They don't have to risk anything to sell. They just call me up, hey, I got this watch. If they're in another location, I have people all over the country. I send them a shipping label. They can box it up. The shipping label is fully insured, and I tell them how to properly do it and take the pictures to ship it. But they'll ship it to me, and I mean, they're shipping a watch, taking a watch to FedEx, on your trust, because they got to know it's insured. They got to know you're going to back it. When you get it, you're going to send them the money, because, most of the time I got to get it in to see the condition and quality of it before I pay for it. And so again, it's trust. A lot of it in this industry and anything of high value is so much trust.
Yeah, that makes sense. When I was selling my Bentley, I was like, this one guy called me. He says, I can give you cash and I'll meet you at the H-E-B parking lot.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that doesn't feel safe.
Yep.
Where'd you get the 80 grand from? Are you going to rob me? Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And recently it's gotten even scarier with watches, because 10 years ago, people weren't robbing people for watches as commonly. And now, I mean, you don't know if the guy you're meeting up with is real or not on, wherever you've tried to sell it for. So it's best, to deal with watch brokers for the reason of safety.
Yeah. I sold it through a company. We buy exotics, and it was simple, Yep. Hey, I'm going to wire you the money, take it to get inspected at one of my local shops, and then we'll pick up the car from you.
Exactly.
And it was a lot safer,
Exactly.
Because we were talking a little while ago how people are robbing people for like nice
it's
watches.
It's definitely becoming, more prevalent in a lot of industries. And many big cities, we've seen it all on the news in California and places like Miami. Overseas, like we were talking about, London is actually one of the absolute worst for getting watches stolen. And it's risky. And it's like, do you really want to add the risk of advertising that you have this watch, and then you're willing to meet up with somebody you have no idea who they are, at a random place, and hope they have real money, hope they're not going to rob you? It's like, I mean, that's worth a couple grand to just about anybody I know. And, when you're talking about a 25,000 or more watch. Yeah.
And so when you buy a watch, you get it insured. Like, who is it? Your home insurance that insures it?
There's multiple different insurance companies. If you're dealing, my home insurance would deal with like my personal pieces that I'm keeping or wearing for a long amount of time, whereas it's more like of a jeweler's policy with inventory.
You got it. As like a business owner.
Mm-hmm. And also, I don't store my watches at my house or my business. I store them in vaults around Austin in different locations, so not one location has everything, and they're all beyond secure.
That makes sense. And if you do have a personal piece and you're out and about and somebody wants your watch and they try to rob you for it, is that insured?
You can definitely get it insured. Yes,
Okay.
You want that, yeah. So that's why all my regular pieces that I wear on the normal are insured. And there's some great insurances out there that are no questions asked. I mean, if somebody robs it from you, if you left it in a hotel room and you come back and it's gone, like, they're gonna pay it.
Wow.
And so that's what you want for stuff you're wearing all the time, in my opinion. So you're less worried, and it gave you a little, more confidence. Even if you did get robbed, you could just hand them the watch, and it's insured. It's not great, you don't want it, but your life is obviously worth a lot more than whatever the watch's value is. So you just pass it over, and you're not as stressed. You're not, it didn't ruin your year because you lost 50 grand on a watch. You go to the insurance. It wasn't fun. It was, it was a bad situation. But in that bad situation, there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel that you get your watch back, or at least your money.
Got it. Okay. If somebody wants to get a hold of you and they're like, man, I'm really thinking about, buying a watch. Do you want to show us? Because I love for the camera to see the different watches that you brought.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe you could tell us real quick a little bit about each one of them.
Yeah. So I'll go through. We talked a little bit about this Audemars Piguet perpetual calendar already. Like you said, the big thing about this is being a perpetual calendar is it keeps track of the entire cycle through a leap year. So it knows it can even adjust for that one day every 4 years that it needs to. So
it does that automatically.
It does that automatically. It knows that there's a little working in there that only has to be used every 4 years. So that's what would be considered a perpetual calendar. They also make watches that would have a very similar setup, but would be an annual calendar that doesn't know the leap year. So it can keep track of all the days of the month and everything, but not the leap year cycle. Okay. And that's what makes a watch like this so valuable, is the inner workings. To design that little machine in there is millions and millions of dollars. So it's like they're not going to make many of them, and just designing it cost them millions of dollars. So it's like that's a lot of why they're so valuable. When you see these rare pieces that are, some of them are one-off, and they might even be steel, not even a precious metal, but they're hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, they spent millions to develop it, and they only made 20. So
Wow.
It's like they got to get their money back plus some. So there's definitely a lot in the movements of these pieces as well, that it's not just the material it's made of. This is 18 karat yellow gold, for instance, which is one of Audemars Piguet's rarer metals. They don't do a lot in yellow gold, but so.
And have you got a chance to go to any of these factories? Can you? Do they allow people?
They do. I have not been. So,
Okay.
But yeah, that
Cool.
would be Switzerland. You could go and see a lot of this stuff.
Okay.
But the next one here is another Audemars Piguet. This is the double balance wheel open work 41 millimeter, very sought after watch. So this watch, the yellow gold perpetual calendar, is much more rare, but this is more valuable because it's so much more sought after.
Okay.
So this is a very sought after piece, and obviously it's a beautiful piece. Next one.
That's what people, you were saying, the abbreviation AP.
AP.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the next one is another AP here. This one is known as the brick because it's so heavy. We had talked about
it's super heavy.
The weight earlier. So it's solid, or 18 karat rose gold, this one. But it's very thick. Even the bracelet is a very thick gold. So it's got a lot of weight to it, and that's kind of the thing about it. They got the name the brick because it's a brick of gold.
I got you.
Yeah, cool piece. The next one here is a very special piece. This is it started life as a rose gold Rolex Daytona, and it was sent off to Artisan de Genève in Switzerland and completely customized. So they redo everything. They go through, they remade the Rolex movement in gold. It normally would have been steel. So they redid it all in rose gold, they skeletonized it.
The inside is all redone out of gold.
Yep, and it's all hand finished, hand put together, everything. It's one of the more high-end watchmakers in the world. And so they make this. This is carbon fiber bezel, full custom. They do their own brushing and finishings on the bracelet and everything. You can see some matte finish here that wouldn't be like that originally. Very special piece. And this one is actually, sometimes they do runs of 5 or 10. This is actually what they call a piece unique, and it's the only one in the world of its kind.
Wow, one of a kind.
Yep, very special piece there.
How much is that watch?
About 170.
Wow.
This piece here, this is one of the pinnacle Rolexes. It's a platinum Daytona with the diamond baguette markers is what they would call this. So very sought after piece. One of the pinnacle of when you've made it and you want to buy that, that was special watch that you can't even get, like we were talking about. If you spend a lot of money with Rolex, you got to be a client of Rolexes for years and years to get some piece like this, and have been buying, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with them on a lot of different pieces before they're even going to consider you for a piece like this. And a store a Rolex store may only get like one of these a year or something, so they don't have many to give out, and they obviously want to reward their best client, and it goes for so much over retail. I mean, you're basically handing them money on top of handing them the watch that they probably dreamed about getting for so long.
And does it come with this custom face, or is this?
No, yeah, this is all factory.
Oh, that's all factory.
This is exactly how it would come from Rolex.
Okay.
So cool piece there.
And that's the Daytona.
Yep.
The Platinum Daytona.
Yep, Platinum Daytona.
Okay.
And then next we have the Platinum Day-Date. So same material, but this is a Day-Date, a little more classic watch. This is kind of the quintessential business piece, when you've made it in the world and you want to make a statement that you've made it, you buy. Also, I have another Day-Date here. This one is rose gold with the olive green dial. So
nice.
Yeah, thank you. But they're good piece, classic piece. Rolex kind of modernized it by bringing them up to 40 millimeter over the older 36. So it really did, revamp the line, and I see a lot of younger guys going after the Day-Dates.
What would be between this watch? I can't even take it out. Okay, between these two, what's the biggest difference between these two?
The biggest, it's really just the models. So, I mean, their functioning is obviously different. This is a chronograph, so when this is the start-stop button, the seconds hand would start running. You can see it running there,
Yep.
this longer seconds hand. So that's keeping time, and then these sub-dials are telling you minutes and hours you've been timing something. So say, being a Daytona, say you're racing on the track, you want to time lap times, you want to do anything like that, you can keep track of your lap times or anything you want to time.
So these three center dials are keeping track of the minutes once you hit the second to start?
Exactly. So this one right here, the small one, would be the running seconds. So that's the actual seconds that's keeping normal time. When you start the chronograph, the long seconds hand is what's timing, so that you can easily see the exact seconds you stop it.
Got it. Wow, that's so advanced.
And then this watch right here shows you the day and date, more of a classic piece. The sticks here, instead of being diamonds like they are in this, they have what they call lume, which it glows in the dark, so you can see your time when it's darker out, which, it's very handy. I find it a lot when I'm wearing a watch that doesn't have lume like this one. You go to look at the time at night and you can't see, or in the dark, and it's hard to tell. So it really is a very nice feature. But yeah,
which one's more like for prestigious
or
rare?
Yeah, this is definitely more rare and sought after. So this watch here in the secondhand market goes for about $55,000, and these go for about $125,000. And they're both platinum. They're both similar style watch, but.
Is it because there's less of these than there are?
And it's more in demand. I can't speak 100% that there's less of them because Rolex never puts out their numbers. I'm sure there is, just because you see a lot more platinum Day-Dates. There's more available on the market, but it's also that it's so sought after. I mean, this is like the pinnacle, of Rolexes. They make some rare, off catalog pieces. But as far as like normal catalog pieces, like this is the high.
That's their top end. That's their top of the line.
This is the top dog, the Platinum Daytona with the diamond markers.
Got it. Okay.
And then next here I have a Patek Philippe 5711 blue dial. It's one of the more popular steel watches on the planet. People have been after these things because it is so rare, and it's so sought after. It became the watch that everybody wanted, and they shot through the roof. This is steel. I had it sent to Patek to go through it and make sure, service it, make sure it's all lubricated and everything properly. That's why it's still sealed in the plastic, to show that it's never been opened since it came back from Patek. And this is about a $100,000 watch now.
That looks so plain.
It is. It's very plain.
It looks so plain to me. It looks like it looks like from 1980.
Yep. It's a very classic watch, and Patek is kind of more of a classic old money brand. They're getting more popular with the newer crowds, but I would say AP is kind of a younger brand than Patek. But Patek is really coming around, and they're definitely kind of, like I said, more of an old money watch, but they're rare, and this one would just be.
This one's how much?
100,000.
100,000. Okay. What's your favorite, by the way? I know I can tell from your collection, but what's your favorite? Like, do you have a favorite or you don't?
No, I have there's multiple that I have that I really like. I mean, my favorite of all is definitely my two favorites are going to be the Omega and the Rolex, just because they mean so much to me.
I got you.
It's beyond just that. I love them, obviously, because I went after them specifically, but just what they mean.
What they mean to
the
you.
first purchase, and then the business, they just mean so much to me. So I really enjoy those. But there's so many pieces, and your style changes. You may want to watch extremely bad, you get it, and you don't like it that much. Like this brick, for instance, it's like, it's kind of, everybody wants one of those when you get into watch trading. You want the brick, and you get it, and you kind of realize, dang, some people like them, but for me, it's too heavy. I like to wear my watches a little loose, and you realize, quickly realize, hey, it's not that comfortable. I don't like it near as much as I thought. And some, it's even just seeing it. You see the pictures, you see the videos, you're like, man, I have to have that. And then you get it in person, and you're like, I don't like this at all. It's too thick. It doesn't look good on my wrist, And so it changes quite a bit. And I have clients the same thing. They may love a watch. They wear it for a year, and then they upgrade to other pieces, and they find they never wear that watch anymore. So they sell it, get something that they will wear.
Got it. Okay.
Next is another AP. This is a chronograph as well. It was a Team Laningham special edition, which is a sailing team. And it's just a really, really neat dial to it. This is the Team Laningham logo right here. They call this watch the City of Sails.
Okay.
And so it's a really neat piece. And this one as well is another one that I sent into Audemars Piguet to have fully serviced and everything before I resell it. So it comes with a warranty from them on the service. Everything's fresh. The new buyer knows he's not going to wear it for a year, and then it needs service. So
how long do you need to service a watch normally? How many years?
It definitely depends on the brand. With AP, it's usually about every 3 to 5 years if you're wearing it quite a bit.
Okay. And what does it cost to service a watch?
This watch was probably, the service itself was about $2,500, and it took about 3 months. So it's a pain. It takes a while. You just have to send it off and know one day it's coming back. But they range. I've sold other watches. I had a FP Journe, which is a very boutique brand I sold, and it needed a service when I sold it. That service was $20,000 in 8 months. So that changes the sale quite a bit at that point.
So when that's one of the things to consider too, is when's the last time this watch was serviced?
Definitely, it's a question you want to ask. And sometimes the broker may not even know when it was serviced, but you can tell. There's machines you put them on that will tell you how well it's running, how smoothly, if the beat of the movement, like you can see in the open worked here, if it's running at the proper speed, and then it's good, because they basically, most watches will start to slow down or start to do stuff wrong, and for a while, okay, it's off 10 seconds a day now or something, so it's starting to get to, now it's off 20 seconds, and it's not hurting it necessarily, but it just gets to the point where you might be annoyed, like every day I got to reset it, it's a minute off, and then you're like, okay, now it's way out of function, let's go ahead and send it in, get it serviced, get it fixed up, bring it back, and and they bring it back to brand new condition. As you can see, I mean, it'd be hard to tell that this watch had ever been worn before.
Yeah, it looks brand new.
So they do a good job on the refurbishing and everything, and that's why these are good investments for life and to pass down, because you can fix anything. You crack the crystal, you can replace it, and it doesn't cost anywhere near the value of the watch. So you get it fixed, you get it back, you still enjoy it. There's anything can be replaced on them pretty much.
Okay.
Next, I brought a steel Daytona, very popular watch. These go for a lot above retail because everybody wants them. They're fairly well priced in the retail, about $13,000 from Rolex. In the secondhand market, they go for about $25,000.
So if you could get it from a store, 13, but because
it's
so hard to get,
exactly,
25.
It's so hard to get. And these in general, I mean, this is like one of the hardest to get from Rolex. They make quite a few of these, but everybody wants one, and every one of their clients, and they're going to want to sell them multiple other watches before they get to the Daytona, most likely.
Got it.
And then I brought a classic, a Submariner. So this is one of the most classic of all Rolexes. It's originally designed as a dive watch. So you have the rotating bezel to time your diving and everything. It glows in the dark for quite some time. So when you're deep in the water, you can still see it and know how long you've been under and everything. This specific model is white gold, so it's quite a bit more than the normal steel ones that people are looking for. Those go for around 12 to 15,000 depending on the example, and a white gold version like this. This is a good example of buying pre-owned Rolex, because if you got this from Rolex at MSRP, they're about $45,000 plus tax, whereas in the pre-owned market, this watch is about $35,000. So you can save $10,000 buying it pre-owned.
And why is that?
It's not as sought after. People that want the Submariner, they're looking for the steel one. The white gold looks so much like steel that people don't feel like they're getting their value a lot out of it.
How much is a steel Submariner?
A steel Submariner is new from Rolex. They're about 9,000 to 10,000. They go in the pre-owned market for about 12 to 14. So they're not a huge amount above retail, but they're the one that everybody wants. And if they do make this watch in yellow gold, so those yellow gold ones hold a little better value because people can tell they're gold. They got their gold Rolex that they wanted to get. So.
And that's what you meant when you said because they make a steel version, some people don't want to pay the
Exactly.
difference for the white gold version because they look similar.
Exactly. Even the people that can afford them. This watch, though, they don't make with this blue bezel in steel. So if you absolutely like this blue bezel black dial version, you have no choice unless you want to do an aftermarket thing that wouldn't have come originally.
Got it. And when you do an aftermarket, does that lose the value or increase the value?
It wouldn't. To me, it would lose a bit just because something's not real. A lot of times when they do an aftermarket blue bezel on a steel one, it will come with the original too.
Okay.
So they'll have taken it off, and you can have a watchmaker do that. But it comes back to the point of, do you want a watch that somebody else has already taken apart and messed with? Because you don't know who did it, how well the job was, where they got the aftermarket piece, if it's even a quality piece. So it's really gets pretty sketchy quickly when you start dealing with aftermarket stuff, in my opinion.
Okay.
And then I brought a ceramic Panerai, very popular watch these days. People really like the style of the crown guard. This is another diver. It's got the rotating bezel, and you'd be able to see it in the water. And obviously, it's water resistant to pretty deep. So it's got the little lever that kind of pushes the crown down, make sure it's sealed. It's definitely a unique style, and a lot of people really like these pieces a lot. This one being ceramic doesn't scratch near as easy as even stainless or anything like that. Ceramic is extremely scratch resistant. That's why they use it on a lot of bezels for the watch, because that's an area that gets scuffed a lot, and it won't scratch very easy at all. So this is a neat, unique piece, and all black. Being able to get a high-end watch in solid black, it doesn't happen all that often. The brands do it, but
yeah, I don't see them often.
Exactly. And
actually.
It makes it really low key. Somebody can have a $12,000 watch like this, and unless you know what this is, you're not going to think it's a $12,000
No,
watch.
you wouldn't think that at all.
Mm-hmm. And then last but not least, I brought a cool Hublot. So this is called the Sang Blue. It was a tattoo artist that helped design this piece, and they engraved it into the case. Obviously, the geometric design of the dial and how the hour markers and everything work. The back side of this was done really neat too, with the winding weight was done in the same kind of a style.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And it shows the limited edition of being only 200 of these made on the back.
That's awesome.
Neat
man.
piece, and this is titanium actually.
Do you have a dream piece that you want to own?
I do. I would say like my dream piece of all pieces is they make this watch right here in white gold, and they do what's called frosted, and it's like they basically hand do this with a little hammer, and they go over the whole watch, so it's like hammered the whole thing, and it really has a cool finish, and the bezel is a gem set as a rainbow with real gems. That's my all-time piece. They're around like 400,000 now, so it's a very special piece.
I'm sure you'll get it one day.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Awesome, brother. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, purchase a watch, learn, start building a relationship, what's the best way for them to do so?
Reach out to me on Instagram. My Instagram is it's ChronoLogic, so ITSCHRONOLOGIC. And just shoot me a message on there. Like I said, I'm passionate about it. I'll talk to you all day if you're just interested. If you want to know why to spend so much money on a watch, what to look at. A lot of clients come to me and want a special watch, but they don't even know anything. They don't know where to even start, what brand, what. So I'll start showing them some stuff. No, I don't like that. Ooh, I like that. And then we can know, hey, let's start going down this route. And you can really find that special piece, because if you're going to spend the money, you might as well have something that you really enjoy and like, and will make you happy every day when you put it on.
For sure. And I can say this, for those of you guys that are actually considering getting a watch, I know I am. I'm in the process of it. I want the presidential Rolex, the 40, and I think we've talked one time you had one.
Yep, the yellow gold.
Yellow gold. So there's a certain mile marker that I told myself I was going to hit before we do that. But for those of you guys that are looking, Seth is awesome. The communication, the response time, the friendliness, the education, There's no aspect of you that's like salesy
appreciate it.
whatsoever. So reach out. It's been awesome learning. I'm excited to get my first piece.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
My mentor Pat. One day I had like a Fossil watch. And he gave me a Breitling watch for hitting a position in the company. Very nice Breitling, and he says you can't wear a Folex anymore. You got to wear a real nice watch. That was my first watch being gifted.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool. Breitling is an amazing brand. They've stood the test of time, and they have some amazing pieces. They do very well. I have a few in stock now. I always keep them rotating. People are definitely a piece people are looking for.
Yeah, it was a beautiful watch. But our next is a Rolex, so I'm looking forward to do that, and then maybe we'll do like a part 2 when you get it in and we end up purchasing it.
Awesome, man. I look forward to it.
Awesome, bro. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you, dude.
Yes. Hopefully you guys got some value. For those of you guys considering getting a watch or just want to learn more about luxury watches. Take care, everybody. We'll see you on the next show.